Microsoft comes public 86?
Yes.
How many years after Microsoft came public did it take before investors thought investing in Microsoft was a conventional
It's a good
investment?
question. I would say my memory was that it really started to get going in the mid-90s, maybe and late 90s, and probably
10 years?
At least 10 years.
You know what's funny, what you just said though, which is you bought it and then you sold it after you made some money, and so many people will do the same thing with Bitcoin. Like the way people think about Microsoft and Apple today, which is you just never sell them, you just own them forever.
Right.
Yeah. And by 2035, they'll probably say, now I think I'll just own it.
Right.
You know, and Kramer,
Right.
if he's still working
From Seinfeld, right?
if he's still working on CNBC, he'll be saying, yeah, Bitcoin, you just own it, you don't trade it.
The just concluded Bitcoin Atlantis conference had everything. Fire keynote speeches from some of the best minds in the industry, including MicroStrategy Executive Chairman Michael Saylor, Square CEO Jack Dorsey, and Strike CEO Jack Mallers. The three-day conference also featured various panel discussions, including an ultra-bullish one, moderated by Preston Pysh, and featuring Saylor, renowned investment strategist Lynn Alden, and investment manager and sound money advocate Lawrence Leopard. During the discussion, Saylor gives an ultra-bullish prediction for Bitcoin, stating that the leading cryptocurrency has now entered its gold rush decade. Between 2024 and 2034, Saylor envisions a mad, frantic rush for Bitcoin as investors scramble to get their hands on any available coins before it's too late to do so. Saylor explained that 2034 would be a pivotal year for Bitcoin because 99% of the asset's total supply will have been mined, and the remaining 1% won't be fully mined until 2140. Saylor and Leopard also discussed how Bitcoin would be perceived by investors within the next few years. According to the MicroStrategy Executive Chairman, Bitcoin will enjoy the revered position stocks like Microsoft and Apple enjoy today. During the discussion, Leopard, a renowned sound money advocate who for decades encouraged people to buy gold, announced that he is now a full Bitcoin maximalist since the leading cryptocurrency is a much superior asset to gold. As we bring you clips from the highly insightful discussion, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Also, ensure you check out our other videos featuring top-tier interviews with some of the best minds in the cryptocurrency industry. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
First of all, let me just say, somebody pinched me. I mean, it's like I'm a club payer for Bedford, and they say, let's go scrimmage with Messi and Ronaldo. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? I'm just an old fart gold guy. And I view my role in this whole thing as converting gold guys into Bitcoin because they get half the problem. They understand the monetary debasement issue. They just got the wrong tool, as Michael says. And thank God Bitcoin came along and gave us a much stronger and better weapon, which I've increasingly embraced. And of course, now I'm a full-fledged maxi and out of gold, or getting out of gold. But I've seen in my base probably 50-50 conversion. Some people are just too dyed-in-the-wool, can't get over the physicality issue, don't understand the future, don't want to take the time, don't want to do the work. But I've seen others who've completely flipped. A notable one recently was Chris Irons of Quote the Raven, who was a very smart guy and understood the debasement issue, but was anti-Bitcoin because he hadn't done the work. And I just kept working on him and working on him and working on him to do the work, and now he's a raving maximalist. It's really fabulous. So it goes both ways. Some guys get converted and some don't. And, but we just got to keep chipping away. I think Michael's point from his brilliant speech earlier of it's incumbent upon all of us to spread the word because this is the solution to all our problems. You know, in the early 80s, I started my business career. The IBM PC was introduced in 1980, and Microsoft came public in 1986. Came public at 14 times trailing, and it's growing 40% a year. And at the time, if you were in the computer business, you were at IBM or Prime or DEC or Wang. And the mini computer was really the thing, and a lot of people regarded these PCs as toys. And software was regarded as risky because it was ones and zeros, and people didn't see that there could be any value in it. They were saying, how can there be value in the software? It's just written, it's code. It has no value. The value's in the disk drives, the value's at IBM, the value's in these hardware computers, people who are making real stuff. Sounds kind of familiar, right? And I recall, go a little further back, wind it back, I'm at business school and I'm with my business school roommate. He's with his roommate from Harvard College, a guy named Steve Ballmer. We're walking along the Charles River, and Ballmer says, we've got this thing called DOS, and the entire world is going to need this thing. The entire world. Everybody is going to have it. It's going to be a part of everybody's life. This is going to be a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I looked at him, I thought he was nuts. But then it kind of hit me, he wasn't nuts. It was the base layer of the technology that allowed the PC to grow. And 40 years later, it is ubiquitous, and Ballmer's obviously a billionaire, and Microsoft's a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, I bought it at the time in '86 when it came public, sold it 3 years later to buy a condo. It was a mistake. The split-adjusted price is 6 cents, and the stock trades at, $290 today. So it was, 47,000 times your money, or 4,700 times your money. The point I'm trying to make is that Bitcoin is the same thing, and people don't understand it. They don't understand that it is the base layer of money, and it is going to absorb the entire monetary system given a long enough time frame, at least in my opinion.
Microsoft comes public '86?
Yes.
How many years after Microsoft came public did it take before investors thought investing in Microsoft was a conventional
It's a good
investment?
question. I would say my memory was that it really started to get going in the mid-'90s, maybe and late '90s, and probably
10 years?
At least 10 years, yeah.
10 years.
At least 10. And it just kind of got progressively better, as you know. We could go look at the Stark chart and see the curve, right?
But for 10 years it was risky. And
Oh, absolutely.
it's funny what you just said though, which is you bought it and then you sold it after you made some money. And so many people will do the same thing with Bitcoin.
Exactly.
You'll see in a generation of institutional investors, they'll buy Bitcoin because it's going up, and then they'll sell it after they've made triple profit to take some money off the table. And then 10 years,
Right.
in 2035,
Right.
they'll look and they'll understand it much better. And then they'll think, like the way people think about Microsoft and Apple today, which is you just never sell them, you just own them forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by 2035, they'll probably say, now I think I'll just own it.
Right.
And Kramer,
Right.
if he's still working
From
CNBC,
Seinfeld, right?
If he's still working on CNBC, he'll be saying, yeah, Bitcoin, you just own it, you don't trade it.
During the discussion, Saylor and Alden also talked about the next phase of development for Bitcoin and how it becomes the base layer of money. The MicroStrategy executive chairman explained that as more fiat currencies weaken over time, tens of millions of new investors, then billions of investors, will find a reason to buy Bitcoin. Saylor gave the example of Nigeria, which, according to data from Chainalysis, had the world's highest peer-to-peer, P2P exchange volume as of November 2023. A few years ago, Nigeria was ranked 18th among countries with the highest peer-to-peer transactions. That changed quickly when the Nigerian government cut off access to banking services for cryptocurrency investors. Alden explained that many other governments will take similar steps to stop the perceived threat of cryptocurrencies, but investors will always find a way to buy and trade cryptocurrencies regardless. Here are more clips from the panel discussion.
I think there's 1,000 different on-ramps. I mean, it's not one. Lightning is an important layer too, but there's a different Bitcoin wallet in every, there's a dozen Bitcoin wallets in every country. There's a dozen Bitcoin exchanges. There's peer-to-peer. It's a different story in every country in Africa, a different story in every country in Asia. It's going to be an evolving story, and you're going to see people develop a lot of competitive layer twos. You're going to see people develop competitive layer 3 apps, competitive exchanges. Some people will be good, some companies will move fast, some will move slow. There'll be regulatory turmoil. There'll be I could have predicted, like in Argentina, I would have said, at some point, Argentina will close the door to Bitcoin before Javier was elected. Yeah. I would have thought that they're going to institute capital controls. And then that election turned everything 180 degrees, and it went the opposite way. So politics is chaos. And then you saw the opposite thing happening in Nigeria, where it was 400 naira to the dollar, and when it jumps to 1,200 naira to the dollar, they're closing the on-ramps. They're closing the on-ramps to the custodians, but non-custodial solutions become all the more compelling then, right? Yeah. So I don't think there's one answer. There's not even one best outcome or need in one country, because it's dynamically evolving based upon the politics and the circumstances in every single nation on the ground. It even changes by state. by province, right? So I just think this is classic market situation. The one thing that'll happen is all these currencies, as they weaken, there'll be marketing events for Bitcoin. Everyone in a collapsing currency is going to look for a solution. More and more are going to hear about Bitcoin. Then they're going to want to be paid in Bitcoin. Then they're going to want to download a Lightning wallet. Then there'll be another wallet. Then there'll be a debate about what to do with it.
One thing I described in my book, actually, there's 160 different currencies in the world. And if you look historically, how does money get in and out, right? Because they all have varying levels of capital controls, more or less, around them. And the two ways that money gets in or out are either through physical ports of entry, which are obviously very restricted. You can only bring so much cash or gold through an airport. And then wire transfers, which again are tightly controlled environments. And so when you have like a space with a failing currency and millions of people, historically the ways to get out were somewhat limited in terms of scale. And what things like Bitcoin and stablecoins do is, one, you can bring them through ports of entry with infinite value density, right? So it gets past that issue. And then two, if I hire a graphic designer in country XYZ, she can hold up a QR code over a video call, or she can send a payment string over email or DM, and I can pay her over that and go around her local banking system. And so there's obviously frictions there for those that are trying to maintain those kind of captive audiences in 100+ different currencies around the world. But what we've generally seen is countries try to kind of block the exits and realize it's not working. Like you mentioned Argentina, there was in 2022, they stopped, a lot of banks were going to get into Bitcoin, and the Argentinian government stopped them from doing it, the big banks. Then they actually, the next year, they extended it to the fintech companies, not even the banks, but the next layer. And they never got to the point where they said Bitcoin's illegal, but they were trying to make it harder and harder to do. Now some of that's being reversed. We also saw in Nigeria, they went through a phase where they blocked all the banks from sending to exchanges. Nigeria then developed the largest peer-to-peer market volumes in the world, according to most measurements, if you look at chain analysis. So basically, whenever there's a friction, if the people want it, the tool's so powerful that they can route around blockages until the problem at the top is forced to change and modify their strategy. And so I think we're going to see more and more waves of that. We're going to see frictions, and then we're going to see overcoming frictions, and then we're going to see new frictions and overcoming frictions, because the market's just, the tool itself is so powerful that it just gives so many ways to route around problems when they emerge.
Meanwhile, Bitcoin investors have been celebrating Bitcoin briefly hitting new all-time highs, the first time the leading cryptocurrency marked this important milestone before a cycle's halving event. On March 5th, 2024, at 10:03 Eastern Time, Bitcoin hit a new high of $69,324, recording an almost 10% increase in 24 hours. According to data from Bitsgap, this brief sojourn above $69,000 means the cryptocurrency has recorded a new all-time high. Reacting to the new price record in a tweet, senior Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas noted it mutually benefits both the spot Bitcoin ETFs and the underlying cryptocurrency. His post reads, "It's a big moment for Bitcoin, but I'd argue it's just as big a moment for ETFs. The move from 25K to 69K was all or close to all due to ETF approval hopes and flows, and arguably warranted in my opinion. ETFs are so good at taking something and making it liquid, cheap, convenient, and standardized. Both ETFs and Bitcoin mutually benefiting from one another." Eric's statement about the mutual benefit means higher Bitcoin prices will drive ETF flows and AUM, leading to more demand for them, which will in turn drive Bitcoin prices higher. It's a mutually beneficial cycle of bullishness that will certainly send Bitcoin prices to new record highs before the year ends. What are your thoughts on the video? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.